All right, let's talk about one of the biggest challenges in artificial intelligence today. We're building these incredibly powerful systems, but how do we actually trust them? Today, we're looking at a new framework called Discovery Intelligence that tries to answer exactly that.
So, have you ever asked an AI a question and gotten an answer that sounds super confident, totally plausible, but is just flat out wrong? It's that bizarre tendency to just make things up. We call it hallucination, and it's the number one reason we can't just hand over the keys to AI for really critical tasks.
You see, the root of the problem isn't really a bug, it's a feature of how these systems are designed. Most AI today is built to create plausible answers. It's a master of mimicry, of sounding right. But this new approach, discovery intelligence, flips that on its head. The goal isn't to sound convincing, it's to build justified knowledge, answers that can be proven, traced, and verified. Okay, so let's really dig into this issue. Section 1, AI's plausibility problem. The challenge here isn't that AI lacks information, it has access to more than we can imagine. The real failure is in how it evaluates and presents that information. And this is the heart of the matter, right? Current systems are so fluent, they trick us into thinking they understand. But they don't. They can't tell you why an answer is correct. They don't have a good way to change their minds when they learn something new. And maybe worst of all, they give you these plausible answers with no provenance. You can't follow the breadcrumbs back to see where the idea came from.
So, if that's the problem, what's the fix? Well, that brings us to Section 2. It's about setting a completely new goal for our AI: integrity. The core idea here is something called epistemic integrity. It's a fancy term, but the concept is simple. Instead of building for speed or scale, you build for honesty. Every single claim the system makes has to be traceable to evidence, it has to state the conditions under which it's true, it has to be aware of its own uncertainty, and it has to be open to being changed later. And this quote from the source material just nails it. Success isn't about giving a dazzling answer. The system wins when its claim is so transparent and well documented that a human expert can come in, look at the work, and either verify it, reproduce it, or even prove it wrong. It's all about accountability. So how in the world do you enforce that kind of integrity? Well, you need a process, a really, really strict one. Which brings us to Section 3, the knowledge assembly line. This is called the Canonical Discovery Loop, and it's a fixed 7-step journey from raw data to trustworthy knowledge. It starts with just taking in the raw evidence, then you standardize it, interpret what it might mean, and form a very specific testable claim. After that comes the most important part, justifying that claim by linking it back to the evidence, and finally, opening it up to feedback and updates. Now here is the absolute key to the whole thing, the golden rule. The order of this loop is sacred. You can't skip steps, you can't reorder them, you can't collapse them together. This rigid discipline is what prevents the system from taking the kinds of intellectual shortcuts that lead to hallucinations in the first place. To keep that assembly line running properly, every piece of knowledge has to fit into a very specific, structured format. So, Section 4, the anatomy of a claim. The basic building block of knowledge in this system is called a minimal truth unit, or MUT. Think of it like the atom of a fact. If an idea or statement can't be broken down and structured as a mute, then as far as discovery intelligence is concerned, it's not knowledge, it's just a guess. So what's it a MUT? Think of it like a nutritional label for a fact. Every single one has to have these 6 parts. First, the claim itself. Then the evidence reference, which is the show me the proof part. The conditions, when is this fact actually true? A confidence score for how much the evidence backs it up. An explicit statement of uncertainty, which admits what we still don't know. And finally, provenance, which is the claim's entire history. Without all 6, it's just not a valid claim. Okay, so we've got the process and we've got the format. The final layer of protection is a set of absolute, non-negotiable system rules. Section 5. The unbreakable rules. Rule number 1, and this is so important, raw evidence is immutable. Once a piece of data enters the system, it can never be changed or deleted, period. This guarantees you can always trace a claim back to the original untouched source material. And rule number 2 is the real hallucination killer. Every single claim must explicitly point to the evidence that supports it. No citation, no claim. It's that simple. This makes it structurally impossible for the system to just invent facts out of thin air. This third rule represents a huge shift in thinking.
An AI model's output is never, ever treated as the truth by default. It's seen as a proposal, a hypothesis. It only becomes knowledge after it has gone through that entire discovery loop and emerged as a fully structured, justified claim.
Now, with all this discipline, it's also really important to be clear about what this system is not built for, at least for now. This isn't about full autonomy or real-time speed. It's not optimized for massive scale. These aren't weaknesses, they're intentional choices. The system prioritizes being correct over being fast or flashy.
And this might be one of the most powerful ideas in the whole framework. In a system like this, saying "I do not know" isn't a failure. It's a feature. A well-reasoned admission that there's not enough evidence to make a claim is a valid, valuable, and honest outcome. And it's 1,000 times better than a confident guess.
So, when you put it all together, this whole approach leaves us with a pretty profound question to think about. What actually changes for science, for medicine, for society, when the technology we rely on to help us understand the world finally values being right over just sounding right?